So it's been a little bit more than a year and a half since me and Matt started Milk and Cookies Total War, the Total War YouTube channel. And like I said, I think it's time that you guys get to know me a little bit better, and hopefully that'll make you feel a little bit more invested in this YouTube channel and where it's going in the future. So that's me. My name is Morgan Haskins. I am 21 years old and live about 20 minutes outside of Washington, D.C., in Northern Virginia in a place called Great Falls. And I'm currently going to school at James Madison University, which is one of the better business schools in the country. And I'm currently studying to get my bachelor's degree in marketing. And I have absolutely no clue what I'm going to do with that. I have really done almost no job searching at all, which is a pretty bad idea considering how bad the job market is. I really should start setting up interviews with people, but there are career fairs and things like that that'll get me on track for that. But I am a senior at James Madison University, going to graduate very soon, which is why I should be looking for a job. I just haven't been able to motivate myself to do that yet. But a lot of you have been wondering what the origin of Indypride is, and well, I don't actually know if a lot of you guys care, but I'm going to tell you the story anyway. So the first game that I ever played online was Battlefield 2. That was the first online gaming experience that I ever had, and I would say that was close to a decade ago, actually. And that was an amazing game. I remember playing Ghost Town 24/7, the Spec Ops expansion pack for Battlefield 2, a lot. And there was a particular server from addictedtogames.com, and I played a lot of games on that. Probably put like 200 hours into it, which is funny. Thinking back on it now, 200 hours isn't that much considering what I put into Total War Shogun 2 and some of the other games that I played. I put well over 1,000 hours. But back then, 200 hours was a lot of gaming time for me. And I decided that I wanted to come up with a name, and I was kind of struggling with it. But I have a lot of family from Indiana, which is a state that's about 4 states over. It's Pennsylvania, Ohio, then Indiana. So about 4 states to the west of Virginia. And I grew up watching the Indianapolis Colts. I'm a big football fan, American football, big Colts fan. And my dad grew up in Indiana as well, and so he kind of taught me to love the Indiana Hoosiers, which are a college team. And that was actually a college that I was thinking about going to for a long time. It came down to 2 colleges. It was James Madison University and Indiana. And Indiana was about $27,000 a year because it was out of state, and James Madison University is in-state for me, so that ended up being maybe like $14,000, $15,000 a year, so it was much less for me to go to James Madison University, a lot closer to home. It's about a 2-hour drive from my house. If I wanted to go to Indiana University in Bloomington, that's about a 10-hour drive every time I come home for Thanksgiving break or Christmas break. So I decided to go to James Madison University instead, but I do wonder how my life might have been different if I'd gone to Indiana, because they really do have an amazing school, and I grew up watching their sports teams. They have a really strong basketball program, and I think it would have been a lot of fun to go there. I just know that financially it didn't make quite as much sense, so I ended up going to James Madison instead. But the reason I ended up naming myself Indypride, some of you might have guessed by now, is because of all the roots that I have in Indiana. Indy is just short for Indiana. So being a large Colts fan, being a Hoosiers fan, having family from Indiana, the name kind of stuck. And once you kind of develop an online persona, even way before I started posting any content for YouTube or even dreaming about posting anything on YouTube, I think that those roots that I have in Indiana mattered a lot to me, and I wanted to have a name that meant something, and so that's how I decided to settle for Indypride. Not the most interesting story, but I am still happy with the name, and there's a reason that I haven't changed it in more than a decade. So I will get to the question and answer pretty soon here, but it'll be more towards the end of the video. There were some topics that I wanted to discuss before we got to the actual Q&A session, and actually a lot of the questions that you guys asked will get answered as I go through the topics that I wanted to go through. I will say that you guys asked some pretty boring ass questions, I'm not gonna lie. Like, you could literally ask me any question and I probably would have answered it, even if it was inappropriate or whatever, but you guys didn't end up doing that. I'm not sure if you were nervous about asking that or what, but I ended up it ended up just being like, what's your name, what's your age, what's your job, that kind of thing, which is fine, but I would have answered anything. So maybe if you guys have any more questions you want to ask after this video, feel free to answer them or ask them, and I will do my best to answer. So one thing that I did want to talk about is the college experience, how James Madison University has been to me, and I think I wanted to start it off with a kind of funny story from my freshman year. I do not condone underage drinking at all, but of course it's going to happen on a college campus. And I actually don't drink very much. For those of the people that know me really well, I pretty much never drink to get drunk. I drink just to like have a couple beers with my friends, get a nice little buzz going, and that'll be the end of the night for me. I don't really like to go out and get absolutely hammered and then not be able to remember what happened the night before. But a couple times in my life, I have thrown up from alcohol, and one of those times was on my birthday freshman year. Like, everyone in my hall got they baked a cake for me, which was super nice because I normally don't get that kind of treatment, and they all came up to my room and we just hung out for a while, and I really appreciated that. That meant a lot to me, freshman year especially, because that was I was born in March, and that was halfway through the year basically. But yeah, that meant a lot to me. But what happened was we were all drinking that night, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever had crappy vodka, but there's a thing called Burnett's vodka in America. I don't know what other countries have it or if any other do. It might just be an American brand, but it's flavored vodka. They have like blueberry, raspberry, peach, and apricot, and just a bunch of other flavors. But at the end of the day, it's vodka, and it's cheap vodka at that. It's about $15 for a handle, and we were all drinking like around a table, playing beer pong and stuff, and I just decided, for whatever reason, I was already kind of a little hammered, to start necking it, which is I was just drinking straight out of the bottle, and I probably had like 3 or 4 shots in a couple of seconds that are the equivalent of that, and I blacked out and I didn't remember anything. So I woke up the next morning, and I was laying in my bed, and it was like 7 in the morning, and I woke up and I was just in pain, and this was the first time I'd ever been truly drunk and completely gone, and it was ridiculous. And I woke up, was in so much pain, and I was like, oh, what happened last night? And so I look at my wall, and if you guys are squeamish and like someone just talking about this, then feel free to just fast forward in the video, but I'm going to be talking about throw up, so bear with me. What happened was I ended up throwing all over my wall, and my friends later told me that it was basically like the Exorcism, for those of you who have seen that movie. And it was just covered in like red, because I don't know why it was red actually. I might have had a slushie or something. But regardless, I got up, and it smelled really bad, and I was like, oh my god, what happened last night? So I was walking into the hallway, and my friend happened to be up, and he was like, wow, dude, last night was absolutely ridiculous. And I just said, like, what happened, man? I don't even remember anything. And he just said that I had apparently like thrown up all over myself and been in the hallway staring out the window, just covered. And he said that he walked up to me and said, dude, you gotta get in the shower, man. You just gotta get cleaned up. And I told him that I was already in the shower. That's how far gone I was. I was just standing in the middle of the hallway, and I thought I was in the shower. So all my friends grabbed me, and they ended up just bringing me to the shower and got me cleaned up. And that's how you know you have good friends, if you have friends who are willing to clean you up when you're naked. That's how you know you have good friends. So that meant a lot to me, and they took good care of me. But yeah, that was the one of 2 times I've ever thrown up from alcohol. So I do not recommend it. When you cannot remember your birthday, that's probably not a good sign. Every other time I've ever drinking, I just kind of get a nice little buzz. And so that's that college story. I don't I don't know if you guys care to hear anything like that, but I felt like I'd do it anyway. So let's go through the pictures here that I have on this album. Obviously, these aren't every picture I've ever taken in my life, but that right there is my sister. The only reason I decided to include this one in my photo album is so that you guys could see who got the better genes in the family, which is obviously Shannon. She got the better genes, I'll be honest. And right here, that's my dog Pepper, and this is my family room. During Christmas time, we like to set up the train track right here, and normally we would actually have that train running, But for some reason this year, my mom and I set it up, and we just weren't able to get it running. I guess the tracks didn't quite get lined up properly. So, but this is a little village, and there are a bunch of little people and cars, and it lights up. And what we like to do is just like turn off all the lights at night and just keep the Christmas tree and all the lights in the town on, and just have the train go around. It's very nice. Really gets me in the Christmas spirit every year, and it's something that I really, really enjoy coming home to during the Christmas holiday season. Like I said, this is my dog Pepper. She's an Australian Shepherd, 10 years old now. She turned 10 in November, and this dog means the world to me. I seriously, like, how could you not love that face? She is absolutely adorable. Means so much to me. Like, she's a complete member of the family, and I don't want to get depressing, but the fact that she's 10 years old, a dog usually, like, max is going to live like 14, 15 years at best. So when she goes, I'm going to be, like, I'll be in the grief stage for a very long time, because she's meant so much to me. She's been my best friend for 10 years now, and I absolutely, absolutely love her to death. And for those who don't know, Australian Shepherds are very highly energetic dogs, so you got to give them a lot of work. They were traditionally sheep herders, and so they have that innate ability in them to just like want to herd everything, want to always run around, and so she just has limitless energy even at 10 years old. So cute. So I do my best to play ball with her as much as possible, walk her and give her the exercise she deserves, but of course I'm at college for most of the year, so I just got back to college. Actually, I'm usually home like for about a month for Christmas break, and then a week for Thanksgiving, a week for spring break, and 3.5 months for summer vacation, and that's it. But of course that will all change at the in May this year when I graduate from college and go out into the real world to find a job. But it also means that I don't get to spend as much time with my mom and my dog as I would like to. And that's really the sucky thing about college. Like, I've absolutely loved my time at James Madison University. I've learned a lot, and I've absolutely loved the people I've met and the experiences I've had, but I am definitely going to be sad. Well, I'll be sad graduating, but that's the thing that about coming to college is that you're just away from your family for a very long time, and it can, at least at freshman year, it can definitely be very hard on new students who aren't used to being away from home for that long, but finding a bunch of friends that are close to you is definitely a nice thing to have, and that helps you kind of deal with that homesickness through that first year of college. So these group of guys were the people that I lived with freshman year. My roommate from freshman year actually isn't in this photo because he wasn't able to make it to spring break with us last year, but we went to Puerto Rico. My aunt and uncle have a home that they graciously allowed us to stay in for about a week in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And this was taken at Senor Frog's, which was a bar in downtown San Juan. And yeah, these guys are awesome. We met freshman year, and we've been friends ever since. I didn't actually get to live with them. It's these three, David, Gray, and Taylor, and then John, my roommate from freshman year, actually are living together, and I kind of had to find my own place because I suck. I'm just kidding. It ended up just being not working out that I could live with them. It ended up being that only like 4 people can live in a house off campus at JMU, and so I just kind of ended up being the one that wasn't able to get the spot. But I'm not bitter, I swear. But yeah, they're great guys, and the vacation we had in Puerto Rico was awesome. We were about a 4-minute walk from the beach, and it was like a private beach, so we could go there whenever we wanted, and at most there would be like 15 people on our section of the beach. You could see the skyscrapers in downtown San Juan from the location we were at. There were a bunch of bars and stuff near our house. It was a really, really nice vacation, and it's actually the first time that I've ever gone on spring break anywhere without my family. It was the first time that I'd actually been with friends somewhere. So that was definitely a really nice experience. We also ended up going to a baseball game. I don't know how many of you guys follow baseball, but this was a photo that we took at the baseball game, and it was from the World Baseball Classic, actually. It was Venezuela versus the Dominican Republic. And so there were a bunch of Major League Baseball players playing in that game because a lot of the professional teams get their players from the Dominican Republic and Venezuela. So Miguel Cabrera, the home run hitting king. I think he's hit the most home runs in the last 2 seasons of any player. So Miguel Cabrera was there, Pablo Sandoval, Robinson Cano from the New York Yankees, Jose Reyes, a bunch of players were there. Like these teams were absolutely stacked, and it was a really fun game to watch. And World Baseball Classic definitely gets really hyped because there were a lot of fans from Venezuela and Dominican Republic that were cheering on their team. So that was a really, really nice experience. And again, I don't know how many of you guys actually watch baseball. Probably not very many of you, but I thought I'd share that anyway. So a lot of you were wondering how I got started in Total War, and that actually began on Medieval 2. No, let me rewind a little bit. I actually played Shogun Total War. I got that for my birthday when I was like 8 years old. Like, that was the first one that I ever played, and I played that pretty extensively. I wasn't very good at it, but I do remember going in and recruiting lots of Nodachi Samurai because I thought they were absolutely awesome. And so Shogun Total War was actually the first Total War game that I ever played, but Medieval 2 was the first one that I actually truly understood and grasped what I was doing in a campaign. In Shogun Total War, I had absolutely no idea what the hell I was doing. I would just kind of make buildings when I felt like it, but I could never really manage my economy that well. But I ended up playing Medieval 2 quite extensively, getting pretty good at it. I never played it online, really. I think I played a couple of online battles, but that was when it wasn't Gamefly, whatever the GameSpy idea, I guess, was what it was. It didn't work that well at the time, so finding games online was really difficult, and my computer was pretty crappy. The specs on it were pretty bad. So even after buying a graphics card, I knew nothing about buying or building a computer. But I just bought like a $200 graphics card, which looking back was probably a terrible decision for multiple reasons. Because one, it didn't. You need more than a graphics card to run games well, and nothing else in my computer actually was good. So it ended up still only being able to run Medieval 2 on like medium settings. But I played that a lot, and Holy Roman Empire was definitely my favorite faction from that game. Had a really cool, unique unit roster. I loved the Germans in that game. It was Germans and British or English were my favorite. The Forlorn Hope or the Virulorn Hof, awesome unit. Absolutely love those guys. It was a smaller unit. Like instead of like 90 men in the unit, it was like 30 or 45. But they could absolutely shred stuff, and those massive Zweihanders they carried got me pretty hyped up every time I saw them fight. And then the normal Zweihanders, of course, were awesome. And I just think the Gothic Knights and just the whole spectrum of Holy Roman Empire units was a lot of fun to play with. And then, of course, England had the Longbowmen and Armored Swordsman combo, which was a lot of fun to use as well. So you just like put a bunch of wood spikes down, camp behind, get a bunch of Longbowmen, and just shred any armies that came your way. So Medieval 2, definitely a lot of good memories on that. But the first time that I got into multiplayer was on Shogun 2, and I played that very extensively. Now, when the game first came out, it was my freshman year of college, and for whatever reason, I couldn't make multiplayer work. Every time I searched for match-made games, I just couldn't get it to work. It would always lag out or something. And that was on my that was on campus. I lived in an on-campus dorm, and the internet freshman year was not particularly good, and that might have been why. So I didn't start playing online until May, when I finished my freshman year of college and got back home to my Verizon Fios, which is a fiber optic connection, and was a lot better. So I played a lot of multiplayer then, and that's when I really got into it. But I didn't get into competitive scene until a year or a year and a half after that, when Boss Tycoon, 50 Bomb, Braver Planar, and some of my other friends first friended me, and we started playing a lot of games that way. And it was during that time that I also joined Fish Sandwich Patrol's Classic Battle Tournament, and that was really the catalyst for what made me want to become a commentator. Was I won all those games, I ended up winning the tournament, and I loved the idea of having my own gameplay on YouTube. And so at the time, I didn't have a computer that could record anything. I had a laptop, but I played Shogun 2 on low settings up until I got this beast of a computer that I have now. And I got this computer in August. But so I needed someone else to make the YouTube channel for me. So I kind of I wanted to make it with someone anyway, because I felt like doing solo commentaries at the time, it was scary for me. Like, I didn't think I'd be able to do it all that easily. So I wanted to have a partner, but it also helped that my partner would be able to run the YouTube channel, because at the time I simply wasn't going to be able to do it. So from that standpoint, I guess you could make the argument that I used Madness, but I talked to him after playing him in the Fish Sandwich Patrol's Classic Battle Tournament, and after I won our series, we started talking and playing a while, and we did some campaigns together. We did like a Oda Tokugawa legendary campaign and stuff like that, and so we just became friends, and that's why we decided to make the YouTube channel. I think that if I hadn't talked to Madness about it, this channel wouldn't be here. Well, I know that it wouldn't be here, but I don't know that there would be any YouTube channel, because I can't think of too many people who would have wanted to start up a YouTube channel with me, but ended up working out pretty well, I think. So here's a picture of my dad, myself, and my Uncle Frank. This next part is going to be probably kind of depressing. It's about my dad and his battle with cancer, so if that's not something that you think will be interesting or something that you want to hear, then I would click away from the video or try to fast forward through this part. But this kind of thing can be therapeutic in nature. Like, talking about the death of a loved one is always hard, but I think it can help you get over things faster. And so even though it's been a couple of years since my father passed away, I think it's still something that I want to talk about, because it's not something that you get to talk about very often. Like, you can talk about it with your family, but those kind of emotions, while it's good to get it off your chest, it can definitely be very hard. But I think I want to share this story with you anyway, just because I think if you want to know me, this was kind of a defining point of my life, so I think it's a good thing to talk about. So I remember the year I Am Legend came out. There was a movie with Will Smith about well, it was basically about zombies, but the reason the zombies came about were that there was a cure for cancer, and it ended up like changing their genome or something, and like converting them into these crazy, scary monsters. But my dad told us like maybe like a week after the movie came out that he had cancer, and it was at this point that he said that he had caught it, that the doctors had caught it early, so it wasn't quite as scary a deal as you might imagine. But when you hear that someone that you love has cancer, that's always hard. And I remember going into the movie theater with my family, and we had no idea what I Am Legend was about, but it was a movie we wanted to see. And when they actually started talking about the cancer, I just broke down and cried. Like, I love the movie, and I didn't have to leave the theater or anything, but he told us right before we went to the movie that he had cancer, and so he'd actually caught it pretty early. It was, I think, in like stage 1 or stage 2, so it wasn't quite as big a deal, but it was still really scary. It's something you never want to hear. And I don't know what year that was. It was like 2008 or something. So after that point, my dad got treatment at the UVA medical facility. Their hospital's like world renowned. Like, they have a really nice hospital, and he got treatment there. Went through a bunch of like experimental procedures, and then his cancer went into remission. But we went to like 3 or 4 years later. This was before my sophomore year of college, so this was 2.5 years ago. We were at a wedding for my cousin. That's what this picture is. Like, my cousin and her husband, this was their wedding. And so we were in San Diego, which is where some of my family's from. They're from California. And that was where the wedding was being held. And it was right after this wedding, and this is where the picture was taken as well, that my dad told me that his cancer had come back. And that it was a much bigger deal the second time, because once you go into remission, you don't want the cancer to come back, obviously. You don't expect it to come back. But when it does, it kind of hits you pretty hard. And so it was at this point, I believe he told me that it was stage 4 melanoma. And I didn't want to do any research on it, because I didn't want to know anything about it, because cancer is a really scary thing, and I just couldn't bring myself to do research on it. But knowing now, stage 4 is not always terminal, but it's basically, like, if you have stage 4 cancer, you're in really, really bad shape. And so I didn't know that at the time, and I went back to school like a week later, because this was near the end of the summer vacation, and I just tried not to think about it. But I came home over Thanksgiving break that year, and I saw my dad for the first time, and I saw what the cancer was doing to him, and that was extremely, extremely difficult for me because he, like you can see him right here, I think in that picture he's probably 230, 220 pounds. When I came back, he was like 160, 150 pounds, and I'm like 135 soaking wet. And I don't think I look bad at all or like super skinny or anything, but like that's just my body frame. It did not look right on my dad at all. And so I came in the door and I didn't know what to expect when I came home, and I saw him, and I tried my best not to show it, but I just ran right into the bathroom and started crying because he looked like he was in really, really bad shape. And so like he started having trouble like moving around the house. He needed to get a walker, and like it was just like ravaging his body. So I ended up going back to school for Christmas, and then over Christmas break, he, like it was right after Christmas actually, like Christmas Day, like we opened up the presents and everything. And then on Christmas Day, he said he started complaining of chest pain, and so he had to go to the hospital. We took him there, and apparently, I don't know everything about melanoma or cancer in general. In fact, I don't know very much about it at all, but I do know that he was having liquid fill up his lungs, and it was making it very hard for him to breathe, and that was obviously a very painful process. And it had, like, he'd been having treatment off and on for years at this point, and he basically just said that he didn't want to deal with it anymore, and I completely understood it. Like, if I was in that much pain, I wouldn't want to deal with it either. And it had been like 4 or 5 years of trying very hard to get rid of the cancer. But he ended up, I'm trying to think exactly what happened. He just said that, yeah, we took him home for hospice care, and he just said that he wanted to come home and just stay at home, not have to deal with care in the hospital or anything. So we stopped all drug treatments and everything. And so he just stayed at home and just pretty much laid in bed. And it was actually January 3rd, I believe, of that year, so 8 days after Christmas, that he passed away. And the death of a loved one is always extremely, extremely difficult to deal with, especially your father or your mother. Anyone who's that close to you, it's very difficult. But one thing that I definitely kind of regret, and my mother told me that I would end up probably regretting it, was that and I would pass this on to you. Now, you can do whatever the hell you want if you have to deal with this kind of situation, but this is just from my personal experience. If you see a loved one and you know they're dying, they have cancer or some terminal illness, that you should definitely try to sit down, as hard as it is to face them and talk to them, like talk to someone who you know is dying. And I think it's very important to be able to sit down and actually like talk to them and tell them how you feel about the whole situation. That's something that I never did, because I saw him dying, and it just made it very, very hard for me to like even look at him, because every time I saw it, it just reminded me that I was going to lose someone that I love very much. And so I never actually ended up talking to him before he, like right before he died. Of course, he knew that I loved him, and we had talked many times previously, but in the couple weeks up to his death, we didn't really talk at all, and that's something that I definitely do regret. And it's funny because my mom told me that I would end up regretting that. She asked me, "Are you sure you don't want to talk to him?" And at the time, obviously, it's much easier to just try to like put it out of your head. But I would definitely say, if any of you deal with a situation like that, try to talk to them, because it makes it, at the time, it's harder, but it makes it a lot easier to deal with later on in your life. It's not something that I, even now, like 2.5, 3 years later, like I don't think about it every day. In fact, many days I don't think about it at all. And the saying goes that time heals all wounds. Well, it might not heal all wounds, but even with the death of a loved one, like a father, yeah, time will heal it. You don't think about it as much, but it's still very difficult sometimes when you wake up and like think, well, I'm never going to get to see this person again. So that's hard, but it definitely had a profound impact on my life. Like it made the next semester very, very difficult for me to deal with. And I actually got the worst grades that I ever had in my life this semester afterwards. I'm sure I was dealing with some forms of depression, but of course the people at school that I knew, my friends, made it much easier for me to deal with. And they were gracious enough to, a lot of my friends were actually gracious enough to show up to the funeral without even me asking them to come. So yeah, that was very nice of them. And I think the most important thing about dealing with a situation like that is that you have all these great memories with the person that you love. So, yeah, you can lose them, and that hurts really bad, of course. But you can always think back on all the vacations you had with your family, all the good times. And, like, memories are very, very powerful. And if you can keep those happy thoughts in your head, it makes it a lot easier to deal with. And, of course, thinking back on it right after the death of a loved one will probably elicit lots of emotion and make it pretty hard. But certainly as you go on into the future, years down the road, looking back on those things, it makes it, when I think back about some of the times that I had with my father, I cherish those moments for sure. And I think that if you guys ever deal with a situation like that, that's a good way to deal with it, is just think about all the happy times that you had with them. It certainly helped me a lot. I'm going to be honest, I love that picture of myself, by the way. It's like, camera, why are you looking at me right now? I'm not ready for this. I don't know. I have like the same picture right here. This one right here, where we actually like set up and like actually took a good picture, but between these two, I've actually always loved this one more. I just feel like I'm showing so much attitude right there for basically no reason, but I think it's kind of funny. So now on to the Q&A, the question and answer session. JamReal18 asks, what is your favorite Total War to play? And if I had to pick one out of all the Total Wars that I've played, I gotta say Shogun 2. I think overall Shogun 2 was the most complete Total War experience that I've had. Multiplayer was really solid, even though, of course, for a while there were plenty of issues and stuff. I mean, after all, it is a Creative Assembly release, so that kind of stuff happens with their games sometimes. That was really, really fun. Just overall, I feel like multiplayer was really deep in that game. The retainer system, the unit system, the veteran system, the fact that you could play Shogun 2 versus Fall of Samurai, which was, by the way, I think probably the best expansion pack for any Total War game ever. I think Fall of Samurai was really deep and changed the game tremendously, but the ability for you to be able to play as Fall of Samurai versus Shogun 2 and vice versa, I think that was a really great feature that they added. So you could kind of reenact The Last Samurai whenever you felt like it. I just think that it was really deep. And overall, I think the art system, the UI, everything about Shogun 2 was a step up. Well, maybe not everything, but the majority of things in Shogun 2 I think are better than they are in Rome 2. And that's not because I don't think Rome 2 is a good game. I think if Shogun 2 wasn't as good, or if Shogun 2 didn't exist, we would be loving Rome 2 right now. But I think that Shogun 2 set the bar so high that it makes Rome 2 kind of a disappointment for people. At least that's the way I look at it. But yeah, Shogun 2, definitely my favorite Total War experience. I have played Third Age Total War, and if you haven't tried that mod out, I think you guys should, because if you love Lord of the Rings, it's a lot of fun. Like, the unit models are spot on. Like, even the settlements, some of the settlements are just really, really well designed. Just in general, I think that's one of the most complete mods I've ever played for Total War. So if I had to put a number 2, it might be Third Age Total War, although I've only played one campaign, so that might be a little lofty. But overall, Shogun 2, my favorite Total War. So Domestic Goddess asked me what I like to do in my free time other than sleep and play Total War. Well, actually, she said more like, I'm assuming this is a girl, by the way, Domestic Goddess. If you're not a girl, my apologies. She says, like, what do you like to do in your free time, basically? So, well, no, I don't only play video games in my free time. That's true. On the weekends, in the winters, actually, I really enjoy skiing. Harrisonburg, Virginia, which is where James Madison University is located, has a mountain nearby called Massanutten, and it was sophomore year that my friends decided to get season passes to the mountain. So you end up paying like $220 for like a season pass, and you have unlimited access to the slopes except on Saturday and Sunday mornings, I believe. And because usually, at least my friends drink on the weekends, so they're not going to want to get up in the morning anyway on the weekend. So that's a really, really good deal. $220 for what usually ends up being about 10 or 12 ski sessions on the mountain. So my friends snowboard. I ski. I had never snowboarded before, and I had actually gone skiing a couple times before in my life when we started this up during the sophomore year. And so one thing that I really love doing is going to the mountains. It's nowhere near as good as West Coast skiing. If you compare it to Colorado or certainly the Alps or something like that in Europe. I don't actually know what good ski locations in Europe are, but East Coast and West Coast, there's quite a big difference. East Coast is usually the mountains are smaller. The Black Diamonds, which are the expert slopes, are not as tall or steep or scary or have as much obstacles on them as they do on the West Coast. But it's also a lot icier. The weather conditions just aren't as nice on the East Coast because the elevations just isn't as high. So West Coast has fresh powder all the time. It makes the snowboarding and skiing much more pleasant because skiing on top of ice is just generally not as much fun. You don't have as much control over yourself. But that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy myself in Mastodon. I really, really enjoy skiing. And so that's why I bought a season pass the last 3 years. And so that's one thing that I really enjoy doing. I also occasionally go hunting with my friends. I've only ever participated in the killing of an animal once. It was we went deer hunting. And normally I just go to the cabin to just hang out with my friends and just get away from everything. There's no electronics out there. There's no cell phone service. It's just a nice cabin. You sit by the fire, you talk and drink with your friends, and that's something that I really, really love doing. We did end up hunting one time, and we got a deer. I didn't do any of the shooting. I didn't have a weapon, but it was a bow hunt. And to make this video not quite as ridiculously long, I won't tell that story, but if someone's actually interested, I can tell them in a private message or whatever. But that was a little scarring, I'm not going to lie. I love animals. I absolutely love animals, so seeing an animal die in front of me was not the most fun thing I've ever done, but it was still a good experience and one that the hunting itself I don't cherish, but the ability to spend time with friends out there without any electronics or anything else getting in the way is something that I definitely do cherish for sure. Surzis asks, what is my favorite Sesame Street character? I don't know, man. That's a hard one. I mean, we are Milk and Cookies Total War. I'd have to say probably it might be Cookie Monster. I'm going to be honest. I think it might be Cookie Monster. I think he's got a lot of things to offer the Sesame Street fans out there. It's too bad they changed him to the Veggie Monster or whatever the hell they did. Not sure why they did that, but Cookie Monster is pretty badass, I'm not going to lie. I think Big Bird is pretty sweet. And Bert and Ernie, they're Sesame Street characters, aren't they? They're pretty awesome. I mean, honestly, the whole cast is pretty sweet. I think Sesame Street it's not a show that I watched a ton when I was growing up, but I do remember some of the characters for sure. Grouch, Oscar the Grouch. Some really cool characters there. Fish Sandwich Patrol asks, why you so bad, though? I don't really have a good reason or a good answer for that. That's kind of hard. Why am I so bad? I don't know. I know you guys know Fish Sandwich Patrol. He was a YouTube commentator for a while until he went to the military, so he left. And me and him actually play Dota a lot together now. He's gotten done with his basic training and everything, so we have actually kept in touch. But I can't really answer why I'm so bad. I guess it just kind of runs in the family. We all just kind of suck in general, so not a very good answer, but it's the best I can give you, my friend. Prince Prussia asks if I would like to give him a lot of money. I think the answer to that is going to be no. I don't think I'm going to give you any money. I will give you some investment advice, though. I think it is very important, even as a young 18-year-old, 20, 21-year-old, to invest some money. I've actually saved up a bunch of money over the years, like from Christmas and such, and I've invested in the bond market, and in about a year I have turned, and this is not to like show, hey, I'm rich or whatever, I'm just sharing this information with you because I feel like it and because the question kind of pertains. I had turned what I think was like something like $8,000 into $10,000. I made like $1,500 or $2,000 in about a year just from investing my money, and I have a financial advisor who does it all for me. So, and of course, if the bond and stock market crashed tomorrow, I would lose some of that money. But I think investment is really, really important, especially if you can invest even a small amount of money and just keep it in there, invest it for a very, very long time in the bond or stock market, and by the time literally you can this is basically how wealth is built. If you invest money at a young age and keep it in there, yes, the stock market will go up and down, and you will lose money now and then, but as long as you don't take your money out of it, you haven't technically lost any money. So when the stock market goes back up, the amount of money that you've invested in your portfolio goes up as well, and by the time you're 60 and want to retire, you're going to have a lot more money. Now, of course, there are many economic problems that can arise. There can be depressions and such, but the economic theory is that if you invest your money for a period of 40 years or so, when you take it out, eventually it should generate you a lot of money. So I'm not going to give you any money, but what you should do is invest it. Boom. Got him. That's some pretty bad advice, but whatever. Shut up. I like Cucumber76 asks what kind of music I like. I can listen to anything, honestly. I can literally name a song in every single genre, probably, except like hardcore screamo death metal, like really hardcore stuff that I like. I don't like country overall as a genre that much, but I can name songs, like songs about rain, and a bunch of Tim McGraw songs that I actually really like. I like rap. I like dubstep. I like electronica. I like house. I like... What other genres are there? Oh, I love like Blink-182, like late 90s, early 2000s. It's not punk rock. I can't actually... It's what Fall Out Boy is, what Blink-182 is, that kind of stuff. I like classic rock. I literally like every single genre of music, so I can't really think of anything that I really cannot stand to listen to. In the milk. If I had to choose, I'd definitely dip the cookies in the milk. I mean, that consistency you get where there's like a crunchy cookie, and then you dip it in the milk, and it becomes softer, and you get like that, like milk doesn't have a huge, like, really obvious taste to it, but when you combine it with a cookie, like where it's dipped into it, oh, it's so good. I think cookie in milk is fantastic. If I had to pick a cookie that would go really well with milk, Oreo is absolutely fantastic. Nestle Toll House chocolate chip cookies are great in milk as well. There are a lot of cookies that go really well with milk, but from the name brand stuff, I think Nabisco Oreos are pretty on point, honestly. It's hard to open up a bag of Oreos and just not eat the whole thing. Like, I'm really skinny, but I would absolutely run a train on Oreos any day of the week if I could get my hands on them. I purposely don't go to the store and buy cookies or like really fatty foods because I will literally just eat them all. And my metabolism right now is really, really good, and that's why I'm super skinny, 135 pounds, but there's going to be a day when my metabolism slows down, and I'm going to get fat, so I need to watch that. Horentum Piscaro, kind of along the same lines, asks if I eat cookies and drink milk while playing Total War, and Red Warrior said that there's no way I would do that because I might choke on it if I was playing Rome 2, and I think he might be right. If I was playing Rome 2, eating cookies and drinking milk, and I ran into like a 4-chariot, 4-elephant build, while eating cookies, I might choke and die. If I was in the room by myself and no one could perform the Heimlich maneuver on me, I would probably die. So, no, I do not drink milk and eat cookies while I play Total War. I think that would be scary. And if I'm going to be doing that, I just got to be away from my computer because, yeah, like Red Warrior said, I think I would probably just die if I ate and drank during a gameplay session. So at the risk of you guys getting really, really bored and not wanting to watch anymore, I'm going to cut it here. I think the video is already really long. I haven't actually checked how long it is, but I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope it helped you get to know me a lot better. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll definitely answer them. If there are enough of them, then I'll probably just do a second video. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you want me to do anything again like this in the future, please let me know. And if you have any preferences on the kind of content you want to see going forward from this date, again, please let me know. I am always open to suggestions from my subscribers about what I can do with the channel. And hopefully Madness can get his computer fixed soon so that we can start doing content together. and I'll talk to you later. Indypride signing out. Peace.